Hey, I hope you are amazing. So today's tutorial is to hold the stars in the palm of your hand. Yes, it's a very long title. It's just is what it is. As always, I have a great tea, Rishi Earl Grey, if anyone is super curious. And if you want to send some, since I don't have any cookies today. So let's just dive in. So the sheet music is in the link down below. Grab it, follow along, and let's have some fun. I don't know if you guys, sometimes you notice, sometimes I do wear my ring, sometimes I don't have my ring on. I love my ring, I love being married, but the interesting thing about playing is I used to do recording sessions. It was like, not that I play like that, but so I generally leave it on the piano. I used to leave it all the way down at the lowest note, which is an A, but then there was, in this song, for instance, there's a huge arpeggio. It goes all the way down, and you hear that? So I've been moving it to the desk. Way too much information, I know, but I just wanted to explain why I don't wear it when I play, so now you know. All right, so this song I've nicknamed Stars because it's a lot easier to say. So you may hear me reference it as Stars. Again, grab it down below. Most of the time with my songs, I usually start with saying, you know, it's actually really easy. This is actually a very simple song. It's not that this song is difficult. There are just certain parts of this song that can be a little, will trip you up a little bit, at least trips me up. And a lot of that has to do with the fingering, particularly in the left hand. So the song is really key of D, and then that moves to a G minor, but you know me, I love, here's your G minor, which is the 4. I love the 4 minor of stuff. But you know me, I love putting a different bass note on the bottom, so it's rooted in D. And then here's your home D. G minor, the D and the bass going to a D. So it's got that major. I love that sound. I don't know why. It's almost like a Radiohead kind of vibe. That's the most difficult part that I'm about to show you right now is the left hand. Like actually what's going on in the left hand. So I wanted to show you the left hand before we dive into the song or into the melody. So what it's doing is it's basically just this arpeggio. And if anyone's watched any of my videos, you know that it's difficult for me to play the same thing twice. That's just how it is. So this may vary just a little bit as far as the sheet music is concerned, but for the most part, it's going to be what you see on the ink, okay? So with the left hand, you've got this D major arpeggio. And it's just the triad. It's nothing fancy, no 9s, no 7s or anything. Sometimes you'll see my right hand play the 3rd. We'll get to that point in a little bit. And then the G minor over the D. All right, so I would work on that. If you don't have a fingering for the arpeggios, there's a gazillion online. Just search for D major triad arpeggios and you'll find hundreds of them. But the great thing is, for the most part, they're probably all relatively the same fingering, okay? As far as like what fingers to use on what notes. So again, D, F sharp, A. Going to G minor, triad, so D, G, B flat, D. And then back to D. Now there's a section where the melody is a bar of 5. It's the third measure. And that is because that's just how the melody played out, right? So it wasn't like I was trying to do 2 bars of 4 and then a bar of 5. That's just how the melody is. So if I'm looking at the sheet music, you'll feel it when we start doing the melody. Speaking of melody, let's move over to the melody. The melody is the simple part, right? Because I love melody. Everything is melody for me. Melody is everything that I hang my hat on. So with the melody, starting with the root, then I'm going down a half step, going up a whole step, and then back to the root. This is a very classical, very traditional kind of approach. And actually, there's a tune called Solar, Miles Davis. I never put that together. Sorry, sidetracking here. Well, that's how common this is. And so when you see that's hysterical. And the funny thing is that I'm playing this in major. Whereas with Solar, it's in minor. The very first chord is minor. Right? Sorry. I'm just fascinated by that. I just now picked it up. Anyway, focus, Chad. All right, so going back to the melody. I'm outlining that D triad. I'm gonna have to play it first, sorry. So getting to that G. So if I actually read the sheet music, still on that G minor, going back to that D. So there's that tension and release that I love so much. On that D chord, it's a sus chord. All right, so I'm gonna play that first section really quick. That's the opening melody, it's the opening theme. I'm gonna go really slow. Sorry, I did a little run, I did a little arpeggio right there. Just a D major arpeggio. Still on the G minor. Now here's the interesting thing. Is there's an arpeggio going on and it's still just a G minor arpeggio, okay? That whole intro is just G minor, D, back and forth, back and forth. Now, this is where it does get a little tricky. With that arpeggio, yes, it is a G minor triad, nothing fancy. If you're watching, G, B flat, D, G, B flat, D, and I think it goes up to to the F sharp, to the E and the F sharp. Now, the interesting thing though is with that arpeggio, yeah, he's got it over here. So with the arpeggio, we're approaching that G minor arpeggio with the minor major 7, with the F sharp. So if you have that G minor over D, in my left hand, I'm going to play this F sharp. My right hand, I'm playing that G minor triad. Left hand, F sharp. Repeats. And you're ending on the third. You guys know how much I love the third of every chord, right there on that D. So I'm going to play, how far can I go back? So if you're reading the sheet music, measure 5. Here's that arpeggio, okay? Follow along. G minor, F sharp, left hand goes over, and I love going down to that grace note, that F sharp octave. And then, cool. I'm gonna play that for you really quick. And then that's honestly it for the opening theme. You guys know how I love the interplay between the fingers. And you know like how with, you know, so it's like left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. It's kind of the same thing with everything I do. It's just something I came up with forever ago, and I've tried to kind of build my sound around that motion, that forward motion, if you will. So even with this melody, if you'll notice what I'm doing, the melody is almost interplaying between each note with the left hand. Make that slower. Just practicing that over D major triad. G minor, D major, go slow, take your time. And the problem is, it's not really a problem, but just be aware of how much pedaling that you're using, because after a while, it can get super, super muddy. All right, so just keep that in mind. Okay, back to the melody. Very beginning, opening theme, here we go. See how far the left hand came up right there? So that D is an octave with the left hand playing it. And then it repeats that section again. Play this part first, then I'm going to show you how to do it, okay? If I can play it myself this slow. All right, what's going on right there? So it's the same thing. I'm still doing the whole G minor, but we're just adding a few flourishes to it. So what we're doing is we're still in the G minor over D. Building that G minor triad. I'm moving my thumb or my left hand up to the G minor. I'm still on G minor. I've just moved my root up to the top. So it's just another inversion, or just adding another note. Right? I play that twice. Does it have it written there? Let me see. It does. Yes. Yeah, okay. Just making sure. G minor. And I'm literally just moving up the triad. Slower. G minor. All of that is G minor triad. There's nothing else. G, B flat, D. I mean, you could if you wanted to go, it's not as fun. Okay. And then if you'll notice, my left hand is just literally marking out that triad. So if you want to practice your left hand, G minor, F sharp, major 7. Something to notice that I just caught when I was playing this. A lot of times, a number of times, I'll play that G minor twice. Play it again. So it's almost like this G minor is the launching pad to that next section. So if you break it down in 3 sections, here's section 1. Here's section 2. Here's section 3. I think that's what I'm doing. So I'm keeping this G minor triad in my right hand. And instead of moving, my right hand is staying there, my left hand is going up to the G still. G, E, B, E, B, blah, 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 E, G, E, G. Okay, that whole section. Back to that D. I'm landing on that third, on that major. I'm always looking over here to make sure that the audio is still recording. So sometimes you're like, what is he looking at all the time? And I'm just making sure that the levels are fine and that it's still recording. So, okay, all good. Let's return. So that last run. Great, so there's that section. That's section A. This song actually has quite a few sections. This is the very beginning. That third right there in my left hand. I love doing that. Like I said, I don't always do it the same way twice. That very last run. All right, so that's section 1. Okay, now the next section, we're still in G minor. Okay, so the chords are just going G minor back to the D. But how do we make that interesting? So the G minor, we're sticking around. that minor major sound, right? I love that. I'm going to give away a little bit of a hint in here in just a second about what influenced me a lot this past year, musically speaking, year and a half. All right, so where am I? So this next section, let me play it really quick just for my own sake. There it is. I'm human. Slow, this like analytical, right? So what's going on there? So we have the G minor. Let me find this really quick. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Right, so I'm just going up that G minor major 7. Almost like a G harmonic. Not really. And now that D, there's that third. Left hand, I'm just doing just a G minor triad. Second part right there, same thing, G minor major 7. But instead of landing on the third of the D, I'm landing on the A. This is where it gets a little tricky, G minor. Again, tension release, love it. I don't quite know what that chord would be. I mean, I guess it's like a G minor 7 with the 7. So if you look at the left hand, where am I? And then we're going to an A over E. So if we look at that, G minor, because the left and the right hand doesn't change. All of that is based around an A major triad with an E bass. So if I were to play the left hand of this, but here's where we have that interplay, right? So we have no two notes are hitting at the same time. They're juxtaposed. Right? Let me play that section. Live, and how I've been practicing it, I don't take that measure 23, if you're following along, I don't take that second beat as a quarter note. I'm actually continuing it as the 16th. So that's what I'm doing. instead of it just pausing, right? So I think that's that whole section. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So that section right there, section B. It's funny because the more you play a piece, the more you kind of like find cool little other things to do that you perhaps weren't doing when you recorded it. So for instance, even just dropping down to the A and giving that A the root. There you go. All right, so there's that last section. I want to play, if you're following along, I want to play from measure 23 again. And I'm going to take it really slow because I want you to watch the left hand, what's going on, just in case you missed anything. And again, right at 26 is where I usually have been if you go see me live. That brings us back to the opening theme, okay? Audio check. Cool, good to go. Okay, now my favorite part. The last year and a half, I've been just devouring Henry Mancini, right? Because I love melody. Everything is melody in my mind. And what greater composer in today's modern music, in my opinion, was Henry Mancini. Yes, Pink Panther, Moon River. Those are obviously, the ones that people go to. Peter Gunn, even. But then you have like some of his other stuff that like you never would have expected. Years ago, grab a tea if you want right now. Years ago, I went to go see a film in an indie theater, and it was Orson Welles' A Touch of Evil. And he did the score, and you're like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. I would never expect Henry Mancini to do a score on something like this. It's a fabulous film. It's super great. And then he also did this other like terrifying film, Experiment in Terror. Terrifying. Experiment in Terror. And I mean, honestly, if you're like, if like horror stuff is not your thing, which is not really mine, steer clear, because man, it's spooky as all get out. But the score is just unbelievable. So like the ability that he had to write was so vast and so wide and just so inspiring. Anyway, I just found it really interesting. But going back to the point of this next section, let me find it really quick. Yeah, here we go. 37, I think, is where we are, if you are following along in the sheet music. So what's happening is we're still in that G minor. 7, 6, yeah. And then we're going to a D minor over F. So let me just play this section for you really quick so you can hear it, and then we'll break it down. what's going on. So G minor, triad. D minor over F. And I'm just doing a simple D minor triad. It's just inverted, but I'm not throwing any other colors in there. The melody starts with the 9 root. And then I'm doing an A triad, major, but it's over C sharp. And then the melody, the note starts on the flat 9. Back to the D minor. Yeah. So if I were to play just the left hand in this section, here's my D minor coming up. Here's my A over C sharp. It's kind of weird to play it by left hand by itself. So I'm circling around that flat 9 even with the left hand. What's the sheet music say? Sure. So, but if you notice, my right hand is jumping down to that C sharp. Where am I? D minor. Same thing now with octaves. That last part right there, D minor. Once again, it's that interplay. Okay, it's all over that D minor. So that section. Instead of over the C sharp in my left hand, I'm going straight to that D. It's still an A major chord, excuse me, straight to that A. It's still an A major chord. That melody. So that A triad in the left hand, nothing fancy, just literally A triad. Now it does get a little bit tricky. It's the same exact thing, except in the right hand, we just added a little bit of a kick. So B flat, B flat, D. So I'm still playing that G minor. I'm just outlining the chord. Still the same melody. But this time I just wanted like this, you know, kind of a triplet fill, kind of sixth thing. See if I can play that really slow. Let me actually just read it. So again, I'm just sticking around that G minor, right? Here's the 7. And that B flat is like the root of it all. Not really the root, but it's like the anchor. D minor. Same thing, but now my anchor is A. And then the flat 9. Back to D minor. literally just playing an A triad, just inverted. So that section. Oh yeah, notice what's going on with the left hand. I'm just doing like just quarters. Here's my favorite part of the entire song. Let me make sure I'm following along so I'm not messing you guys up. Flat 9. Again, it's what... so, I mean, if you think about a note, and then you're working yourself around it, right? We talked about this earlier. Or anything that's like right, you're just taking the root, you're going up, down, and then to the root. Or, you know, a very simple jazz exercise, if you want to do this. I'll keep it very simple in the key of C. The triad, just go up a note from the root. Go up a whole step and then go down to a half step. I'm outlining because that major 7. And then if you want to get really tricky, do it with the 3rd. Anyway, I'm really off track here. I'm sorry, it's late in the day. So going back to that last chord, flat 9, 5, 7, sharp 5. Now, here's the fun part. Sounds hard, it's not, I promise you. This whole run, you might tell me what that is? It's just diminished. So, but over the A, E, C sharp, B flat, G. So 5, 3, flat 9, 7, and repeat. Left hand is doing the same exact thing, it's just starting on a different note. My left hand is starting on the 3rd of that A, so it's starting on the C sharp. Same notes, we're just starting on the different note. Yeah, same notes, just starting on a different note. Does that make sense? I'm a 3rd, something like that, 3rd away. So if you notice, my left hand's playing C sharp, right hand's playing E, and everything goes down a step. B flat, C sharp, G, B flat, E, G. And I end on that low A, which is why I can't put my ring there anymore, right? And then honestly, it just comes up to an A7 chord. What's the sheet music do? Good old Jeff Lawson, man, he's incredible with this stuff. No relation, oddly enough. So basically, I'm just outlining an A7 chord. Okay, So that whole section, so what you want to do on this run is you want to start kind of slow, and you want it to be like this waterfall. Like you want to be like in a canoe going over. No, you don't. Slow. Begin to pick it up. And then I'm literally just ending on a low A and then an A, like A octaves, maybe a 5 in there if you're really fancy. And then something like that. And then it goes back to the opening theme. Notice right there, that very last chord, D in the left hand, F sharp, D. Cool. That's it, honestly. So it's kind of broken down in sections. And so once you finish one section, you move on to the other. But before moving on, take your time with it. There's no rush, right? And that's something I also want to stress in music in general. Like when you're playing, if you're playing with an ensemble, it's a little different because you're dependent upon everyone like keeping good time, and so you want to make sure. That's why I practice all the time, every single time with the metronome. But you also want to, when you're playing solo piano, the world is yours. The stage is yours. Like there'll be days where if I decide to play this piece, I mean, I wouldn't. It's a little fast, and no one's like really going to be able to hear it and let it like kind of, sink in. But you can take your time. A lot of my stuff is rubato. It does flow. And it really depends on the day, really depends on the mood, depends on how much sleep you've had, how much you've, whatever. So just kind of be aware of that, right? Not everything has to be so rigid. So just take your time, just enjoy. There's a really interesting book. I cannot pronounce her name, but I'll post about it. So go to my Instagram. I've posted about her before. I'll do it again. But she's the last living student of Rachmaninoff. And she really talked about this. And I really wish I would have read the book prior to recording this. Because I think for me, it was a huge eureka about how does your melody sit? Where does your melody flow? If you have an imaginary person in the audience or in the room, how are you painting that melody for that person? It's not just notes on the page. It's not just black and white. That's a guide. So like if I were to look at just the melody in itself, just notes on the page. Now take that same simplicity, that same melodic pathway, if you will. So on and so forth. Take your time with this, really. I'd love to see if you play it, if you post it. Please share it with me. I will be happy to share it with other people. Thank you all so much. It means the world that you guys would want to learn how to play this song. So thank you. Much love to you all. Please be safe, be sane, even though that is way overrated. And take care of yourself. Drop me a note, say hi, send me some cookies if you want. And I hope to see you guys live sometime soon. All right? Take care. Thanks so much again.